favor and stand on that blue line, okay?
Or if you face me and raise your right hand, please, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? You may be seated.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. In a nice loud voice, could you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name, please?
Michael Hawkins, Hawkins.
Sir, how old are you?
47,
And where do you live?
Salisbury.
Okay. And how long you lived in Salisbury?
Well, Um, 25 years?
Okay, so for a lot of your life?
Yes.
Okay. Is where did you grow up?
Lowell, Salisbury.
Okay. Are you doing any work right now?
Yeah, construction.
How long you been a construction worker, sir?
Since I was 15?
Okay. So that's kind of what you always do for work?
Yes.
All right. Now, is that like on your own or with a company?
On my own right now.
Any particular types of construction that you sort of specialize in or whatever?
Siding, framing, roofing.
Where did you learn to do that sort of work, sir?
From my stepdad, Leroy.
Oh. And so when you say Leroy, you're talking Leroy Fowler.
Yeah, Leroy Fowler, I guess you would say he's the second.
Okay. And it has been a little confusing at parts during the trial because of the junior, senior, the third kind of thing. So you thought of Leroy, your stepdad, you called him as Leroy Fowler Jr.?
Yeah.
Okay. And his son, Leroy, as Leroy the third?
So little Leroy is the youngest.
Okay.
Big Leroy was the middle, and then old man Leroy was the older one.
The grandfather?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how they were referred to.
All right. And just for ease of communications today, if I say Leroy and it's not clear which one I'm talking about, please let me know if you're confused.
Yes.
But I will try to remember to say Big Leroy, meaning Leroy Fowler, your stepdad, okay?
All right.
All right. And so how did you first meet Big Leroy?
So I met Big Leroy through a friend of mine, Danny Bonds, which is little Leroy the Third's brother.
Okay.
I was friends with him, and then I became friends with his mom, then eventually Leroy,
Okay.
little Leroy.
And you said you're currently 47, is that right?
Yes.
All right. And if Leroy were still alive today, he would be about 58 or 59, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he wasn't that much old, 10, 11 years older than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you still kind of thought him as your stepdad?
Yeah. Well, my dad died young, and he was in my life the longest. At first, I didn't. He was more of a friend, but.
And what was it about his relationship? Did he ended up having a relationship with your mom?
Yeah.
And who was your mom?
My mom was Julie Hawkins.
Okay. And so Big Leroy and Julie had a relationship for a number of years. Is that fair to say?
15, 17 years,
Okay.
something like that.
And did you live with them during the course of their relationship, or were you old enough that you had sort of moved on to your
In
own?
and out.
In and out?
In and out. But for a while, I was living there. Pretty much when little Leroy Jr. came to live, the third,
Yep.
I kind of went on my own. It was a small place.
Sure. Okay. And so you said that Big Leroy taught you a lot of the construction work that you know today. Is that fair?
Yeah.
How did he, how was it that he came to sort of teach you that stuff?
It brought me to work. I was getting in trouble. Never really stopped getting in trouble, but, I used to get in trouble a lot. And he said, you got to work. If you're not going to go to school, you're not going to, you're going to stay here, you got to work.
Okay. And so he took you to the jobs that he was doing, back 10, 15, 20 years ago, or even more than that?
Yeah.
Okay. And you just kept doing that sort of work
Yeah,
as you
I
got
liked
older?
it. I enjoy it.
Okay. Now, in the time frame just before Mr. Fowler's Big Leroy's death, were you seeing him? Were you guys in contact during that time frame?
Yeah, we were in contact, not as much as we used to be, but we were definitely in contact. He had worked with us in Vermont. We were building a grow facility up there. He worked there with us. I worked on his house. I did some bending some metal and putting fascia and rake on and stuff like that.
When you say his house, are you talking about?
Well, his and Judy's home together.
Okay, so the one over on Salisbury Beach on
Yeah,
Central Ave.
yes.
Okay. And you mentioned that he was doing some work with you up in Vermont.
Yeah.
What were you guys, what were you building up in Vermont?
We were building a grow facility, like marijuana grow facility.
Okay. And were you staying up in Vermont during the time frame that you were building this house, or were you just driving up there?
We would drive up, stay a couple days, and then come back.
And did you and Big Leroy drive up together?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during one of those drives, did Big Leroy tell you something that he was sort of concerned about regarding his relationship with Judy?
Yeah, he said he thought she was poisoning him.
Okay. And do you remember what time frame that was in relation to his death? So he died on November 13th, 2022. Do you remember about when that was in relation to the?
Let's say maybe October.
Okay. And was that on one of these drives that you were talking about?
Yeah, it was a long drive. It was like a 2-hour drive there, 2.5 hours. So, we would talk, and it came up in conversation,
Okay. And did he tell you sort of the symptoms that he was feeling as a result of, not feeling well?
He said his stomach was bloated, stomach pains, dizziness.
No, I'm going to overrule that. But I want to give the jury an instruction about the statement that was just attributed to Mr. Fowler by Mr. Hawkins. So I want to give what's known as a limiting instruction regarding this testimony that you just heard from Mr. Hawkins. I gave an instruction earlier. You may recall when Tammy Carbone, Mr. Fowler's sister, was testifying, and she related at that time a statement that she said Miss Church had made to her, which included something that Mr. Fowler purportedly had said to Miss Church. It's for you to determine whether and to what extent you credit the testimony that you've just heard of Mr. Hawkins regarding this statement that he says Mr. Fowler made, just as it was up to you to determine whether you credited Ms. Carbone's statement, or testimony rather, about Ms. Church's statement. But to whatever extent that you do credit Mr. Hawkins' testimony, you may only consider the statement that he has attributed to Mr. Fowler for a limited purpose, which is as evidence of Mr. Fowler's state of mind prior to his death. You may consider Mr. Fowler's state of mind in assessing whether or not he ingested ethylene glycol knowingly and intentionally, but you may not consider the statement for the truth of his stated belief regarding the defendant, Miss Church, and her conduct. That would be an impermissible and forbidden use of that evidence, and it would be unfair to Miss Church. So you may only consider that statement for that one limited, narrow purpose. Now, Mr. Camelio is going to ask Mr. Hawkins about some additional statements. These other statements don't have that same limiting instruction. I just want to make that clear. You consider these for whatever purposes you think are relevant. Go ahead, Mr. Camelio.
So you were getting ready to describe for us, sir, the symptoms that Mr. Fowler told you he was having at that time that you had the conversation about the poisoning when he said he was sick.
He was just saying that he would feel dizzy, his stomach was bloated, diarrhea, throwing up. Just think that's about it.
Did he mention having a hard time breathing?
Yeah, he did say he was having a little bit of a hard time breathing.
All right. And so you guys were you staying together at a hotel or a motel
Yes.
out there?
Yeah.
And did you make any observations that night of any what appeared to be health problems he was having at that point?
Yeah, he was having a hard time breathing that night. He was having a terrible time breathing, moaning in his sleep. Yeah, I checked. I got up and checked on him once because it was kind of. But then the next day he was a little bit under the weather, but he seemed all right. He seemed like he was breathing fine.
Okay. Now, I had asked you when that conversation took place, and you said you thought maybe sometime October. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. So we had gone up there
Let
twice.
me stop you for 1 sec.
Right.
You remember talking to the police on November 12th, 2022. Do you remember that, having that conversation
Yes.
with the police?
Yes.
And that was recorded. You're aware
Yes.
that that was being recorded. Page 5. Okay. And if I were to show you that that transcript from that conversation with the police, would that help you remember exactly when that conversation took place?
Yes, it would.
All right, let me just point you to page 5, and starting right here, just read that to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that help refresh your memory about how long before Leroy died that this conversation took place?
Yes.
And what was it, sir?
It was, I would say, probably towards the end of October.
Okay. All right. Now the week that Leroy, Mr. Fowler ended up going to the hospital on November 11th and died on November 13th. The week leading up to that, and again, I'm talking about Big Leroy here, obviously.
Yes.
Had you seen him at all during that week?
I think I seen him a couple of times. So I like I said, I did work over at the house, and then they were giving me a van. He was giving me his van, and for payment for doing the work, like kind of like payment, but
Sorry, I didn't hear what that was.
he was kind of giving me his van for like payment
Yep.
for doing the work. Like
Okay.
I didn't need the van, but he didn't want it anymore, so it was kind of like doing him a favor and kind of doing me a favor at the same time.
Okay. What kind of work did you do on the house?
I put aluminum, I bent aluminum metal to put up on the fascia and rakes, fixed some of the stuff that was dented on the house, just kind of repairs,
Okay.
you know, fix
And-
maybe the gutter.
And where was this white van that he was going to give you?
It was not, I'm not sure if it's their driveway, but a driveway right out front of the house. If you look to the right, there's a driveway that's all sand.
All
It was
right.
parked there.
And did the van need any work to sort of get it?
Transmission, there was something wrong with the transmission. It was leaking, so it needed a line. I ended up putting a line on it and stuff like that.
And did you and Leroy have a conversation about what work you were going to need to do on the van to sort of get it
Yeah, he
going?
told me it needed oil change, that there was some rot. Not sure exactly what the van needed. I didn't end up really doing any of it and getting rid of it, so.
All right. Did was working on cars or vans or motorcycles something that you and Mr. Fowler, Big Leroy, used to do together?
Yeah, we would, here and there, you know, not all the time, but if something broke on a car or my mother's car or something, he would either fix it or ask me to go fix it, or if I didn't know how, he would show me, or,
So he would actually teach you how to do some of
Yeah.
these repairs to the vehicles and stuff?
yeah.
All right. Now, over the course of now we're talking 6 to 8 years before Mr. Fowler's death, did you get the chance to observe him with both Judy? Did you know who Judy Church was?
Not until my mother passed.
Okay, but after, your mom passed in 2017.
Yes,
correct? And after that, did you meet Judy Church?
yes.
Okay, and did you know what the nature of her relationship with Big Leroy
Yeah,
was?
I knew of the relationship between them before they passed, but I didn't know her. You know,
Okay,
me and my mother weren't talking, or I wasn't talking to Leroy at that point in time.
okay. Well, so I'm talking about after that. Did you get, so you knew who Judy was?
Yes,
And did you know that he was also seeing Barbara Randall?
yes.
Okay. And did you get the opportunity at some points in time to observe the two different relationships?
Objection, Judge.
He may answer yes or no if he did, but I may have to see counsel at sidebar. You may answer the question whether you had an opportunity
Yes.
to observe. Okay.
Okay. And how would you characterize the relationship? Let me see how I'm going to say this. How would you characterize how Judy acted towards towards Big Leroy, towards Mr. Fowler?
Objection, Judge.
All right. Let me see counsel at sidebar.
Now, sir, in the years after your mom died and Big Leroy was dating Judy, fair to say you spent time with both of them together. Is that fair?
I would say more with Barbara and Leroy
Okay.
than I did with Judy.
Okay. How many times? How often?
Judge, maybe he lean forward and speak into the mic, please.
Yes.
More with Barbara than Judy and
Okay.
Leroy.
How often would you go over to the house on Central?
I think I was there maybe 5 or 6 times, not too many times.
Okay. And did you have some conversations with Judy on some of those occasions when you went over to the house?
Yeah, a couple times.
Okay. And did you sometimes see both Barbara and Judy at various places around town?
Yeah.
Texted with Miss Church on occasion?
Yeah, I think so. Not very often. Not very often. I mean, there was a couple, but I don't even kind of remember what they were about.
Okay. How would you characterize the relationship, the way that so just start with Miss Randall. How did Miss Randall act in her relationship with Big Leroy?
Judge, again, note my objection.
I do. You may answer.
I would say Barbara, she definitely wanted to be with Leroy, but, she could take it or leave it. If he was going to do what he was doing, then he could go back to Judy.
Okay. How about Judy? Did she feel the same way?
Judy was a little bit...
It's overruled. You may answer.
Judy, she was a little bit more aggressive, I would say. She would follow him around, drive by Barbara's house, show up places they were at.
Be stricken.
Let me just ask, are you saying that based on what she told you, or you saw, what's the basis for
I've
saying
seen
she,
her drive by when I was there. I've watched her drive by.
is that the basis for you saying she would drive by his house?
Yeah, Barbara's house.
All right, I will allow
I
that.
seen it once that she drove by.
Okay.
She went by, turned around, came back by.
I will allow that to stand. Next question, please.
All right. Thank you. Now, did Leroy drink much?
Not much. He used to never drink, but then I think he started drinking a little bit. But he never drank with me really, no.
Okay.
So,
You knew that he used cocaine from time to time, is that fair?
yeah.
Okay. What sort of drinks and food did he like?
Sugary drinks. He liked sugar, chocolate milk, Pepsi, root beer, Powerade, Gatorade.
Did you ever know Leroy to take anything sort of in place of alcohol, or any random things in place of alcohol or cocaine?
No.
Did Leroy appear at all suicidal to you in that last week of his life?
Objection.
Overruled. You may give your perception if you saw anything about him that appeared suicidal.
No, maybe a little confused, but not suicidal, no.
Thank you. I don't have anything further, Judge.
Mr. Norkunas.
Thank you, Judge. You indicated that, Mr. Hawkins, you believe Judy Church drive by once when you were at Barbara's house.
Yeah,
And that would have been over the relationship was what, 10, 12 years?
Barbara and you.
Judy and Leroy Sr., right? And then the relationship started in 2012 with Barbara?
I don't know when any of the relationships started. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't around at that
On
point.
years, right?
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Many years, right?
Yeah,
Not 2 years, not 3 years, not 4 years, not 5 years, right?
I would say it would be many of years.
All thinking once you saw her drive by the home, right?
Once I was there, I wasn't there all the time.
That's obviously you couldn't see her drive by if you weren't there, sir, right?
I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
one
so
of the
I seen her one time when I was there, drive by.
Over all of the years that you visited to Barbara, correct?
I didn't visit Barbara for years. I had just met Barbara after my mother died in 2017.
And from 2017 to 2022 is 5 years, right?
Yep.
All right. So during that 5-year period, we're narrowing it down. When you were there, you saw her drive by once, you believe, right?
Yes.
And Barbara lives where, sir?
Walton Road, I believe.
And it's a common road within the city, in the town of Salisbury?
It sure is.
Okay. A lot of traffic go by on that road?
Yeah, there's a school there.
If you're going to other places or other events or other stores, you might get down that road?
I would say, yeah.
All right.
I would suppose, yeah, there's nothing down there besides the school. But yeah.
Now, in 2022, you went in and you gave a written statement, or you gave a recorded statement to the police department, correct?
Yeah.
November 12th, 2022, right?
Yeah.
And that took place at a private house, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And that was the home of Mr. Eaton, right?
Yes, it was.
And present also at that point in time was Leroy the Third, correct?
Yes.
Tammy Carbone, right?
I didn't see Tammy, no.
Tammy was there giving a statement that day?
She might have been there earlier in the day or maybe in another room. When I came in, the cop took me into a separate room. I came in the door, went into another room. I didn't.
Within the house, right?
Within the house,
All on
yes.
the same floor, right?
Yes. I don't know the layout of the house. It was my first time being in it, but yes.
Who called you to come to that meeting?
My little brother, little Leroy.
And Leroy, to your knowledge, had set up that meeting with the police, right?
Yeah, because I didn't want to come forward.
And you had had some conversation with Leroy the Third before you got there, right?
Yeah,
About what was going on, what do we think happened, right?
yeah.
Now, and afterwards you all talk again, right? After you all gave your statements, correct?
I think I left right away. I didn't stick around too long.
Would it be fair to say that you understood the purpose of the meeting to be able to help the police in the investigation of why Leroy Sr. died, right?
I don't know if I was helping or not. I was just telling
That
what was
my
said to
question.
me.
The question was, you knew the purpose was to do that, correct?
Was to go speak. My little brother, we had spoke about
Sure,
this.
let me ask you the question, all right? You went
Judge,
there.
objection. Can he answer the question?
Well, it depends whether he's answering or not, but.
Sounded like he
you ha-
was
If,
trying.
you have to give him I think Mr. Norkunas at least sensed that he wasn't about to answer the question that was put. Put another question and let's see where that takes us.
Went to the home of William Eaton to speak to the police, correct?
Yes, and then
And you understood the purpose, lean forward into the mic, sir. You understood the purpose of that to be to see if you could assist them as they investigate why Leroy Sr. died.
yes,
correct?
yeah,
And so therefore you came there to give them whatever help, whatever knowledge you had that could assist them.
yes,
correct?
yes,
Now, you were then asked about, as part of that meeting on that, back in November 12th of 2022, about going up to Vermont, right?
yeah,
And at that point in time, you told them you thought it was 2.5 weeks earlier than November 12th, correct?
yeah. It could have been.
All right. And
I wasn't sure of the
Camelio
exact
just showed you
date.
the transcript, and you
I'm
saw,
not. I wasn't sure of the exact date that we went. I'm still not sure. It's not like I kept a date of when. There's a lot of jobs in between.
fair to say that on November 12th of 2022, your memory was better of what took place in the previous 2 weeks
Yeah,
than it would be today in 2026, correct?
I would say yeah.
Okay. And when they asked you, when do you thought that was on November 12th, you thought it was perhaps 2.5 weeks earlier, right?
Yeah,
But then they asked you to explain what took place then, right?
yeah. I guess yes.
You talked to them about a conversation, just yes or no, sir. You talked to them about a conversation you had with Leroy Sr., correct?
Yes.
And here today, when Mr. Camelio asked you about that, you indicated you thought that he had told you that he was having vomiting problems, correct?
Yep.
That I'm throwing up and I don't feel well, correct?
Yep.
And I get sick in relation to that, right?
Yes.
And this was on the ride from Salisbury to Vermont, correct?
Yes, it was.
Well, the grow facility was in Vermont, right?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think of where we left from. I'm trying to remember where we met at. But yes, it was from Salisbury to Vermont. It might have been Newton that we met and we drove together, but I think it was Salisbury.
Well, it's a long time ago again. It's
Yeah.
hard to remember all these things, right?
Not everything, but little details like that, yeah.
And in terms of, again, the meeting, they told you it would be helpful to them if you told them everything you could remember, correct?
Yes.
And they also told you at the end of that meeting, if there's anything else that comes to your mind, call us. And they gave you a business card, right?
Yeah.
And is it fair to say that in the context of that meeting, you never told them back in 2022 about anything happening in the hotel? You never told them about any type of observations you made that evening of Senior, correct?
Correct.
And,
I don't know if that's correct.
well, let me show you the transcript, sir. When they ask, may I approach, Judge?
Yes, you may.
Can I ask you to look at that paragraph here? Read that to yourself, sir, and then look up when you're done.
Yeah, yes.
And that, sir,
Just for the record, Judge, can I ask what page?
that's page 5, and that would be
Thank you.
lines 11 through 17. And that was the extent of what you told the police back in 2022 about your memory of that trip, right?
So I didn't want to.
Sir, what's in the is that it that you told them then? That's the question.
Yeah, I guess if that's what it says in the transcript.
Did Mr. Camelio or anybody else from his office give you an opportunity to look at this transcript prior to coming in here today?
No.
I told you, sir, there's no other place in there where you mention anything else about anything happening in Vermont. But you have a better memory here today, 4 years later, about additional information that took place at the hotel?
I didn't want to talk to the police at all. Wanted nothing to do with this.
Well, you actually gave them like 30 pages of material, sir, right?
Prior conversations along when they're asking a lot of questions and I'm answering.
So you're driving up for 3 hours. You indicate to them there's no disability of Mr. Fowler's, Leroy Fowler III on the trip up. You don't stop. He doesn't say, I'm sick, let me get out. Any of those things, correct?
No, none of it.
And you're going up there to do a construction project, right?
Yes,
And you left at 4:30 in the morning, right?
yes.
And you get up there and you work for what, 8 hours?
I think the first day we didn't work 8 hours.
To work 8 hours.
There was stuff that wasn't there that we needed.
Well, you didn't tell anybody that he couldn't work when you get up there. You didn't say,
No,
hey, it's Mr. Camelio, right?
I never said he was sick when he went up there. I said he had a hard time breathing that night. I don't know what was the matter with him.
Could it have been the cocaine that he takes?
He didn't take none when he was with me unless he was doing it somewhere else.
How would you know that, sir?
I just said unless he was doing it somewhere else.
How would you know he didn't take it up there when he was with you?
I said he didn't take it with me. In my vicinity,
Were you doing it also at that time?
no, I don't do cocaine.
So in the times that you're observing him, did he go into the bathroom when he was up there with you?
Yeah, sure.
Did you go into the bathroom with him?
No, that's what I'm saying. He could have done it when I wasn't there.
How long had you known Mr. Leroy Sr. to be doing cocaine?
You know, honestly, I think maybe 2002, maybe he started doing it.
How many years?
I'd say it'd be 23, 21, something like that. 20.
And also doing Percocets?
I never knew him to do Percocet.
Now, when you also saw him in the days immediately leading up to November 11th when he went into the hospital, correct?
I believe so, yeah. I believe I was there working on the house.
And he came by a couple times, and you encountered him when you were working on the van, right?
Yes.
And you thought that was Wednesday or Thursday of that week, right?
Yes.
And you told the police he was fine then, right?
Yeah. It didn't seem
You
like
said, he said he was all right and everything was going good, right?
Yeah.
And on November 10th, you also talked to him, right?
If it says so there, it's been a while.
And he also told you at that time that he was feeling good, right?
Yeah.
Now, while you were working on the van out there, you were also doing some sort of engine repair?
I think it was low on oil and the transmission line was broken.
You were trying to check on the fluids, right? You
Yeah.
checked on the, did you check on the brake fluid? Did you check on the transmission fluid?
I checked on the brake fluid. I checked the transmission fluid.
You checked the antifreeze, right?
No, I didn't. It really wasn't overheating, so that wasn't the problem. So I didn't check any of that. No, it was. I think it was the brakes, the transmission, and that's it. I think. I mean, it was a piece of shit.
If he wanted to work that weekend, right? And when you were talking to him, you told the police he seemed fine when you were asking him those questions, right?
Yeah.
And you were asked about his favorite drinks, and you came. One of his favorite drinks was red Powerade, correct?
Yeah, he preferred that one. He would drink them all, but he preferred that color.
Well, right. You were asked if there was a particular color that he liked best, and you said that was red Powerade, right?
Yeah.
Now, you indicated that growing up, Mr. Fowler Mr. Leroy Fowler Sr. came to live with your mother, right, Julie?
They lived together. He didn't come live in our home, but they lived together. They moved together into the same place together.
They didn't live in the same house, but they lived together?
He didn't come live at, my mother didn't have her own place, and then he came and moved in.
Okay.
They went and lived in a motel for a while together.
And how many years did that go on, their relationship?
Pretty much till she died. Well, she was with Judy. Well, he was with Judy. He was still kind of with my mother.
So he left your mother to go with Judy, right?
Yeah.
Objection, Judge. That was not the answer.
No, well, that was not, yeah, that was certainly not consistent with what Mr. Hawkins had just said, Mr. Norkunas.
May I proceed with that question, Judge?
Go ahead.
He left your mother to go live with Judy Church, right?
I don't know what happened at that point in time. I wasn't talking to them. But from what I hear, he was living with Judy, yes. But I don't know, I don't know exactly what was going on in their lives. I wasn't
He
talking.
had been with your mother, right?
Yeah.
And he's no longer with your mother, and you found out he was with Judy Church, correct?
Yes.
And your mother's still alive, but she's ill, right?
Yes.
Sick. And were you resentful over that he left your sick mother to go with Judy Church?
At that point, I think my mother should have left him a long time ago. There was a lot before Judy.
Well, didn't you tell the police that he came back to help her?
He always came back to help her.
So
He wasn't
you
at.
So either you disliked him, or you thought he was a good guy, even though he left your mother. I'll skip that question.
Huh?
Now, you don't have any particular training or education, sir, in being able to tell how people's emotional states reflect their mindset, right? You don't have any training.
No,
And the amount of times that you spent with Mr. Fowler and Judy Church, would any of that have been over Judy Church's house?
no, not really. I mean, a couple of times I went in and just came in for a second and left. I don't know Miss Church that great. I've only met her probably 6 or 7 times. Maybe more, but not that I can remember. Not many.
When you know, are you making characterizations of people? You do that because you might have a social relationship with them, right? You might go to a couple of the joints in Salisbury, have a beer together, right?
Can you rephrase that? Can you rephrase that? I don't understand what you asked.
So you never went out to dinner with Leroy,
No,
Judy Church.
no.
You never. You said Leroy didn't drink, so he wouldn't go to bars, right?
He didn't when I was every day in his life. No, he wasn't a drinker.
And
Later on, he started socially drinking, I think.
there weren't cookouts at Judy Church's house that you'd go to and see.
I think I went to one day. Believe I went and stopped in for a few minutes.
For a few minutes.
Yeah, I believe he was trying to give me a jet ski out of the yard or something.
So over the years, the total amount of time you might have spent with Judy Church might equal a week?
Not even.
May I have a moment, Judge?
Yes.
Did you ever, at any point in time after the meeting with the police on November 12th, 2022, contact them and go back to their station to update any information they may have?
No.
I have nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Camelio, any redirect?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Mr. Norkunas showed you the transcript of your conversation with the police on November 12th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And he showed you only page 5 of that particular transcript, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, 17. Fair to say, sir, that this document here is the same document that he showed you. Here's page 5 that he showed you.
Yes.
And then there was another, as he said, another 30 pages. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yes.
All right. And so that's all contained within this particular document here. Fair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, on page 16 of the document, Detective Verney, who was one of the 2 officers who was having the conversation with you, Detective Verney and Trooper Williams, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, on page 16 of the transcript, Detective Verney says to you, one last question about the ride up, because, I mean, that was 2.5 weeks ago, and you answered, yeah. And then Detective Verney said, how did that conversation kind of start? Did he just bring it up out of the blue? And you said he just brought it up out of the blue, because we were driving up there, and it was early in the morning. It was 5 o'clock. And then you go on to say it was a 2.5-hour ride. You continued.
Objection, Judge.
Well, you're just simply reading from his transcript?
I
right
am,
now?
Judge.
I'll see counsel at some.
L for ID.
All right, sir, we were, I was actually reading from the transcript of your interview with the police on November 12, 2022, when we went to sidebar. So I'm just going to pick up. Now on page 17, and you stated, we were just driving about an hour in the drive, and he's like, yeah, I've been feeling like shit again. I think she's poisoning me. And Detective Verney then asked, did he describe what the sickness was? And you said, throwing up, vomiting, dizziness, diarrhea, having a hard time breathing. You know what I mean? And when we stayed in the motel up there, he was hardly breathing. Like that night, I had to get up and check on him and say, hey, are you all right? And just ask you, sir, just take a look at page 17. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Thank you. So the implication that you didn't tell the police about that back in November 12th, 2022 was not correct, was it?
Yeah, it was false.
Nothing further.
Mr. Norkunas.
How many days were you up there, sir, doing construction?
I think that time we were there 3 days, 3 or 4 days.
Mr. Fowler worked 8 hours a day with you on construction?
The last 3 days,
Okay.
probably. But like I said, the first day we were missing some materials that we needed to get started, so we only did, laying out and stuff like that.
You got to get materials.
Yeah.
You got to get all set up.
Yeah.
To start a construction project, right?
Yes,
And then he worked full-time with you, right? He did,
until we left. However many days it was until we left. Yeah,
And then you drive 3.5 hours home, right?
yeah,
And your statement was, he made statements to you on the way up, right?
yeah,
And then you thought he was breathing hard in the evening, right?
yeah.
After you didn't know whether that was attributable to the cocaine he took, right? Or the construction project, right?
Like I said, I never seen him take any cocaine. Never once in my life. Never once.
Took cocaine.
I knew he took it, but I never saw him take it.
Now, and you didn't feel it was necessary to encourage him, tell him, let's go to the hospital, let's have a doctor check you?
He had a pacemaker. He had other ailments, I believe. He had a pacemaker and other ailments. He was away from his machine. I never encouraged him to go to the doctors.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hawkins. You may step down.
Thank you.
We'll take the morning recess now. We got going late, so we took the break right. We'll take a 20-minute morning recess.
All rise. Judge, leave your notebooks on the chair. Judge on the floor.
Well, no other witnesses are testifying on Thursday, so that's why we tried to do it.
We'll be in recess for 20 minutes. Oh, yes, Mr. Scott.
Is there any chance we could address the microphone issue? I would like to get some clarification.
Okay, clarification of what?
Open court or sidebar, Judge?
Regarding the recording issue?
Yes, so, well, my concern is I think the court suggested that we were being overheard.
I wasn't quite sure.
Again-
Ms. Draper, what was it that,
Your Honor, when I saw Ms. Strasnick and Mr. Scully confer, they were conferring with the microphone in the middle. I don't know if the mute button was pressed. It just,
Okay.
it just raised that I should alert the court just to remind the parties that if in fact they are going to confer near a microphone, to please be sure to press the mute
so
button.
my admonition or caution was only based on Ms. Draper telling me that. I wasn't exactly sure what she was basing her.
I wasn't either. And just for the record, why I brought it up is I had been scrupulously using the button to speak to Ms. Church.
Okay.
Wanted to make sure we
there's-
weren't
there's
learning
no
that was
issue.
flawed.
No,
But Ms. Strasnick and I didn't. We just leaned over.
Okay, all right, that's
Out of habit.
that's what prompted it.
I need to remind you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Court, all rise.